Okay.
Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Hi everybody, Ezra Levant here in Toronto. It's our daily live stream and I am joined, as you can detect, by our chief reporter Sheila Gunn Reid, who is on the ground thousands of kilometers away from me, just outside Edmonton, Alberta, at the GraceLife Church, where an enormous police garrison has been created from what used to be a church. They have seized the church. They have put up steel fence, as you can see, in a grotesque display of disrespect and profaning a religious site. They have set up latrines on church property. They have surrounded the church building itself by black tarps so that media cannot see what they're doing to the church, not see the police breaking in. And they have a permanent rotation of dozens of heavily armed police there with guns should any of the mums and children and dads from the church seek to return. And joining us now, the woman who is holding the camera that we are looking at, our friend and chief reporter Sheila Gunn Reid. Sheila, how are you this morning?
Well, I guess I'm okay. I came into GraceLife here a few moments ago, and I noticed that there's a third fence fully erected around the property now. So,
a third fence. They just, this is like when the U.S. military was in Iraq, they had something they called the green zone. It was layers and layers and layers of walls within Baghdad to try and have some sort of normalcy because they were surrounded by terrorists. So this is the armed compound, like any military base in Iraq or Afghanistan, except for instead of keeping out terrorists, this heavily armed encampment is to keep out Christian churchgoers. Am I right?
Yes, that's exactly it. Every time I come here over the last 3 days, it has become increasingly more fortified. And it looks like there are more police cars than ever inside the facility. Now, some of that could be shift change. So I guess time will tell over the course of the next hour if all of them are staying. But yesterday, see where these orange barricades are? Mm-hmm. That didn't have a fence behind it yesterday. So now that's got another fence erected on it, and it goes all the way around the external perimeter of the property. So yesterday, where I walked through the field, is right in front of me here, and also this is where the man hit the golf ball. Mm-hmm. And that's completely fenced off. And even here along the north side of the property, that's all fenced off. The whole perimeter now, that went up overnight.
I truly believe that this is the largest police operation in Alberta. There may be some plans to raid some drug gangs or some child trafficking rings. There's not a lot of biker gangs in Alberta, but this police operation, the amount of logistics and infrastructure, the sheer number of guns, the command post, this is the largest police operation in Alberta that I know about. It's absurd, it's growing, and as you and I discussed yesterday, what exactly is the plan? Because if you have 30 men with guns, if you have a war-style, military-style compound you're building, like the U.S. did in their green zone in Baghdad, you're waiting for something. You think something's going to happen, and these aren't social workers, these aren't, community relations officers. These are cops with guns. And yesterday we saw trucks coming in with undisclosed contents in the back of the trucks. I presume those were heavier guns, perhaps shotguns, perhaps rifles, police equivalents of an AR-15 perhaps. Like, what in the actual hell do they plan to do if a group of mums and kids walk on there? Are they going to use their tasers, their fists, or their guns, Sheila?
Well, and I'm getting the sense this morning, just eavesdropping on some conversations between the church deacons and the cops here, that even the cops on the ground really don't seem to know what is happening here and why so many of them are amassing on the property. I mean, these are completely peaceful people. We saw their pastor turned himself in to jail for 35 days. We watched my friend Devin the other day move to tears because he was trying to evangelize to the cops and remind the cops that they're not against the cops. And so I really don't understand what the leadership of the RCMP thinks that they are trying to prove here, because it's escalating. This should have stopped when Pastor James got out of jail. But now we're in a staring contest with the most peaceful people I've ever met in my entire life, the most forgiving people that I've ever met. And we're in a staring contest. So one side is using love and the other one is using fences and force. And I don't know where this is going.
Yeah, you know, there are some people who are so peaceful. I think the Amish, Old Order Mennonites, folks like that, who are absolute pacifists, who if you punch them in the nose, they might not even punch you back. That is almost as peaceful. These folks are almost as peaceful as that. Like they really wouldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight, as Jay-Z would say. These are the gentlest souls. And the police, you know, again, I think I told you my very first job out of law school, I was articling for a lawyer who used to be a cop. So he told me a lot of cop things. And one of the main jobs of a cop is de-escalate.
Yeah.
De-escalate, de-escalate, de-escalate. Diffuse. Lower the tension, lower the temperature. Because of course the cop is going to win if things escalate. He's the one with the gun. But that's the worst outcome. That is the last resort. A good cop, you know, you could say the path of least resistance. That's not even what it is. It's you've got the gun. You, in a way, have a license to kill. Now, can you do your job? And that's the easiest thing to do, pull that trigger. You don't have to think. You don't have to use your brain. You don't have to use your heart. You don't have to use your cunning to fix a situation. Just shoot everything. That's the easy way. Can you use your brain and your heart and your mind and your tongue? And can you find a better solution? It's like the commanders of this garrison are saying, no, 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 no. We want that brutal showdown, and we'll demonstrate that through threats of force, shows of force, by escalating, by bringing in more and more and more and more and more guns, so that you know if you come here, you will have a gun solution, not a diplomatic solution, not a neighborly solution. You go there, we will shoot you dead. And we saw someone yesterday who was basically talking about how that was the outcome, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did. And, you know, I was thinking about that because that really troubled me on my way home. And I was thinking about that quite a bit last night. I thought, you know, a man who is troubled and with so much anxiety as that man, normally the best place for him to come is a church, you know, and yet he came to this church where his anxiety is even further ramped up because of the extreme police presence here and what's happening to this church. It just, you know, again, it's just that constant escalation, unnecessary escalation. Every day it gets worse and more. And it's like the police are leading up to some sort of, I don't know, I think they're worried about a showdown tomorrow or tomorrow because it's not a work day, or maybe even Sunday. But I promise you, they're not going to get it from the church. They're not here to fight. They're here. I mean, this is a deacon speaking kindly to the cops. He's not angry with them. He's not anything. I don't know why any of this is necessary to begin with, but why the fence? Now, why the third fence?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a critical theory of the military-industrial complex And there might be something to it that says when generals get billion-dollar weapons, aircraft carriers, F-35 Lightning fighter jets, missiles, Tomahawk cruise missiles. When you have generals with all these weapons, they want to use them. So of course, you know, when Donald Trump, and I'm just going on a tangent here for a second, when Donald Trump doesn't want to have a war with Syria, when Donald Trump doesn't want to have a war here or there, these generals are itching for one. I mean, you take delivery of an enormous amount of military might, you want to use it. I wonder if the same thing is here. Here you've got a bunch of cops, SWAT team tactics, SWAT team weapons, huge deployment, military style garrison. They want to use it. They want to rock and roll. You know, you buy yourself a fancy outfit, you want to go out on the town with it. You don't want to just sit around in your living room dressed to the nines. These cops are ready for a shootout. But there's no Hells Angels gang to shoot at. There's no, you know, child trafficking gang. I am worried that the bad judgment of the people who sent this military garrison to seize and defile the church, that they will not be sated until they get to use their toys. Just like generals itching for a war, these cops are itching to use the dozens of firearms they have taken into this one sacred. They've defiled this church with their guns. They've signified their disrespect for this church by bringing their latrines onto church premises. These people want blood. Convince me otherwise.
Oh, the sense I'm getting this morning from just eavesdropping before we went on air with the cops is that these guys really, I mean, they really don't want any of this to continue, these cops. I heard them talking to the deacon saying, well, is there anything that you guys could do to comply? Just anything. So it sounds like even the boots on the ground cops, they've got a real distaste for what's happening here. The guys inside the fence. Yeah. So I don't know.
Philippe Brevard donated $5. He says, Sheila, ask the cops, what are their rules of engagement? They must have a preset rule of engagement for such an event. Former military here, rebels. I wonder, Sheila, if you could present to those cops at the front and say, hey guys, what are your rules of engagement for me and for others? What would you do if I walk past the line? Would you arrest me? Okay. Would you, like, just ask?
Sure.
I don't know, it's not a bad question.
Gate, so, yeah. As soon as they come back to the gate, it looks like they're doing a little bit of shift change here.
Got it. So right now you're standing on the road entering the neighboring farmer's property, and we have his permission to do so.
Yes.
He is clearly irritated by these cops. They illegally put their fence up on his property, and even right now, as you can see, they're blocking his proper access. You can't get a combine through with that fence there. I seriously hope he gets in the combine and drives, and whoopsies, I knocked down your stupid fence, you unethical, oath-breaking cops. Yeah, there's the close to the public sign. I guess they watched your live stream, Sheila, where you pointed out that there's probably a dozen RCMP dirty cops watching right now. When I say dirty cops, I mean the cops who are watching this on behalf of the command. They're dirty because they're unethical. They've broken their oath. They're violating the Constitution. When I say dirty cops, I'm not saying all cops are dirty. I'm saying the disgraceful cops who are operating this garrison, defiling a church. I think they should be drummed out of the force. I think they should be disciplined. I know that you're more Christian than me, Sheila, but I think that everyone who's participating in this illegal activity should be disciplined in some way. Whoever the commander is should be fired, busted down to private so they get a smaller pension and fired. And whoever egged on this, if there's a politician or something like that, probably should face some sort of prosecution for conspiracy. I think this is the most disgraceful thing to happen to a church in Canada in memory. I think this is the most disgraceful police operation in Alberta in memory. And to think that this is going on under the approval and financing and direction of the so-called United Conservative Party and Jason Kenney is the greatest disgrace of all. So to those dirty cops who are watching this, we all know you're going to hell, but hopefully we can bring forward some of those hot consequences while you're still on this earth. And may you all be sued into oblivion. May you all be disgraced in the public eye. May you all lose your pensions. And may you have the odium of a community that no longer respects or trusts you. You are low. So that's my own point of view, Sheila. I think some of these cops know that they're dirty by what they're doing, because when you ask them for their names and badge numbers, they ran away from you because they're cowards that way. We know that. A mask is what a coward wears. Anyone who occupies a church is a coward. Anyone who puts up a fence around a church, including a tarp to hide what they do, is a coward. Part of the blame goes to the corrupt RCMP, which is run by a hand-picked Trudeau commissioner. Of course, a lot of the blame goes to the corrupt culture of the RCMP infused into it by Trudeau. But we cannot forget that the RCMP is contracted by the Alberta government to provide policing. And this operation, they say, and they're wicked liars, so we can't trust them, but this operation, they say, is an Alberta health operation. So that's Tyler Shandro, the disgraced health minister. That's Casey Madhu. That's Jason Kenney. So there's enough disgrace to go around, but the actual just following orders, Nuremberg excuse cops here, we know they're going to burn in hell for this. And I don't know if they believe in hell. They're probably atheists who simply worship power. Some of them are probably thug-like in their personalities. That may have been what drew them into police work. But I think there are some cops there who know what they're doing is deeply, deeply immoral. And I hope they face justice for that immorality in this world, because I don't think it's fair that they have to wait for the world to come before they get their justice. That's just me though, Sheila. That's just me. I have a different point of view than some people. I know there are some good cops out there. We were tipped off to this illegal, unconstitutional raid by a member of the raiding party. There was someone in this force, I'm not going to identify him, of course, he would be fired. There was someone who was involved in this raid who tipped us off to the raid and then told us they were setting up the command post. So we know there is one good man in that compound. But I have no time for the rest of them. That's my view, Sheila. I know you're different. I know you have family who are cops, and obviously there are good cops out there. I know some. But if you are someone who puts on a badge and a gun and goes to work occupying and defiling a church, and you think that is, what's the motto for the RCMP? Maintien le droit. I think it's French, or maybe it's Latin, or maybe it's both. Uphold the right. If you think you're putting on a gun and a badge and going to occupy a defiled church, if you think that's your job, you're crooked. All right, enough ranting from me. Who's this?
More cops coming in. There's the truck that comes in, and then we've got a van. It's just cop cars and cop cars. I mean, they've got to be sending these in from another detachment, because there's no way the Stony Plain RCMP detachment has this many personnel to just standing around doing nothing to devote to this.
Yeah.
Like, this is a major police operation.
Justin, can you get that B-roll of Trudeau hugging and kissing Brenda Lucky? We'll show that to people. Yeah, there's a lot of cops here, and of course this is a 24-hour garrison. It's like a military command post in Afghanistan or something. You've got the perimeter with the fence, you've got watchmen. There's surely electronic surveillance too. Mm-hmm. They're probably hacking your phone or listening into your cell phone conversations. But to staff a military-style garrison, you would need, so there's Trudeau hugging and kissing Brenda Lucky, his hand-picked RCMP commissioner. That was when he was in the middle of his SNC Lavalin scandal. So he had the audacity to go right up to Brenda Lucky in public and dominate her physically and sexually by hugging her and kissing her, extremely unprofessional. But that's just his way of saying, I'm your boss, and I know it, and you know it, and I know that you know it, and you know that I know it, and know your place. You will do my bidding. You know that you will never investigate me for corruption with SNC Lavalin, and I'm just here to show that you know that, because I'm going to hug you and kiss you in public to show everyone and to show you that you'll do nothing about it. So Brenda Lucky is the crooked RCMP commissioner who oversees these occupying cops who are illegally encamped on this church. They are a disgrace, Sheila.
Well, I think an equal amount of disgrace should be heaped on so-called conservative MLAs and MPs. Now, I do know that there have been one or two that have spoken out. I know Arnold Viersen shared something to his Facebook page this morning about what's happening here. And Dan Williams made a Facebook post last night. But where are they down here?
Yeah.
They should be coming here to see with their own eyes. I would suggest the greatest infringement of civil liberties in modern Alberta history. They should be down here seeing what I see with their own eyes, the increasing fortification of a church.
Yeah.
And why they're doing this is because Sunday's coming and people are going to worship. They're fortifying this property because people might worship, which is exactly what they do in China.
Yeah.
So where are our MPs, our conservative MPs who spoke out against Justin Trudeau because he was apprehensive of declaring what's happening to the Uyghurs a genocide? Mm-hmm. Where are you when something similar is happening to a Christian church here? Where are you? Mm-hmm. I know you guys watch. Where are you? Mm-hmm. I don't care about your Facebook posts. Get down here and look at this with your own eyes.
Yeah. Justin, can you call up that Facebook video that one MLA did yesterday? I suppose the lowest of the low, I mean, remember Dante's Inferno. He had different levels of hell, right? And it surprised me to learn that the lowest level of hell was not hot. In fact, it was cold, Sheila. That souls were packed in straw on ice. Did you know that?
Good.
And I want to get this right because frozen, in Dante's Inferno, Satan is portrayed as a giant demon frozen mid-breast in ice. At the center of hell, as Satan beats his wings, he creates a cold wind. But who is in that lowest level of hell? And I'm trying to get this right. I think, is it for traitors or those who are quiet in times of moral crisis? No, you don't know? I just want to say this because you might be surprised at who is regarded as the worst sinner. Here it is, treachery. The treacheries of these souls were denials of love and of all human warmth. Only the remorseless dead center of the ice will serve to express their natures. As they denied God's love, so were they furthest removed from the light and warmth of his Son. As they denied all human ties, so were they bound only by the unyielding ice. The final, deepest level of hell is reserved for traitors, betrayers, and oath breakers. Its most famous inmate is Judas Iscariot. I'm not going to spend too much time on Dante's Inferno. I'm not educated enough to speak on it with confidence. But it's interesting to think of the different ways of sinning. And those who are silent in a time of moral crisis, I'm not going to look through it now. There's a level of hell for them. And I mention that because you have these conservative MLAs who claim they're conservative. You have these Christian MLAs who claim they're Christian. and yet they are silent as a block of ice in hell as this happens down the road from the legislature. I know where that church is. I've been there a month ago myself. It is not far outside the city. It's maybe a 20-minute drive to the legislature.
Yep.
And these MLAs sit in that legislature and they know this is happening and they say not a goddamned thing. Do you have that one MLA, Justin? So I'm going to play a little bit of this. This is about 2 minutes long, Sheila. This is the only MLA I know of who has spoken out, but let me just say in advance, he's recording this at the legislature, not at the church. Why, coward? He expresses his discomfort with it. Thank you, but what are you going to do about it, coward? And he ends by basically saying, all right, I made my Facebook post. Can you stop bugging me now? I'm a slacktivist. I made a post. Click like on it. Give me some internet clout. But now I'm going to go back into hiding. I'm not going to raise this in the legislature. I'm not going to raise this with the premier. I'm not going to raise this with the health minister. I'm not going to raise this with the justice minister. I'm not going to raise this with Alberta Health Services. I'm not going to raise this with the RCMP because I'm actually a goddamned coward. I claim to be a Christian, but like my allies in the ninth circle of hell, I'm actually a traitor to my cause, but I will give you a placebo by recording a little Facebook video so you can say I'm an outstanding Christian as I'm part of the government that presides over this. Any Christian of character would be down there with you, Sheila, and he would be doing more than cutting self-serving Facebook videos. He might even, for example, take it up with the premier. He might raise it in question period. He might raise it in committee. He might raise it on the order paper in some manner. He might put forward an emergency motion to debate it. He might have a private member's motion. He might actually resign on principle, but instead, let me show you the ninth level of hell cowardice of a so-called Christian in Jason Kenney's cabinet, caucus. Take a look at this.
I woke up this morning and saw the same thing everyone else did, that a church outside Edmonton has been barricaded by AHS. Now, I think in a free and democratic society, worship is fundamental freedom that we must maintain. I believe that as Canadians, as Albertans, it is so intrinsic to who we are, whether you're a believer or not, the ability to choose for yourself who you worship, how you worship, and where you worship. Now, I respect and understand the 15% capacity limit. I'm frustrated by it. I brought it up in the legislature multiple times that we should be lifting these numbers. But that said, it is a different line to cross, to barricade a church, a place of God. Now, I'm not speaking here as a politician. I'm speaking as an Albertan and as a Christian. And I believe that right now, fundamentally, we need to take a stand. We need to say something, and here I am making the case that we cannot allow churches to be barricaded in our society. If you agree with this, I'm asking you to share this video. I'm asking you to please let others know that we cannot stand by and let churches and places of worship be treated in this manner by AHS or any other government body. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
So what was his call to action? Share my video, because I'm pretty cool, right? I'm a Christian, take my word for it. And what was his plan of action? We cannot stand by, he says. But in fact, if only he would stand by and actually stand with the church. But he's at the legislature. That's more his kind of place these days. That MLA's name is Dan Williams. And his grand contribution to this is to say, hey guys, I really don't like it. We can't stand by. And that's my contribution. I actually am going to stand by. I won't even stand with them. I'm done. I did my Facebook video. What, you expect me to have the courage to actually do something? I told you I was Christian, right? Isn't that enough? I'm putting my political career with Jason Kenney's party above my principles. Get to the ninth level, you cowardice traitor. Cowardly traitor. Hey guys, I'm a Christian. You know how you know that? Because I just did a Facebook video telling you that. Hey guys, I'm totally against this church occupation. You know how you know that? Because I'm part of the government that's doing it, but I made a video, okay guys? I'm not going to quit the party. I'm not going to go and stand with them. I'm not going to escort people into the church or even stand outside of it. I'm not going to do anything that would jeopardize my pension. I'm not going to do anything that would jeopardize my chances at re-election. But I'm going to make a Facebook video because that's the kind of Christian I am. Get to the 9th level and bring your own ice and straw, you cowardly fake Christian.
Ezra, I would take, I don't know, a more Christian approach, I guess. Maybe it's because I've spent a lot of time down here at GraceLife. But I would encourage people to email and phone and call Dan Williams' office and tell him, look, I saw your Facebook video, but I missed the or else part. And you're telling me you're a Christian and you're telling me you're against this, and I want you to show me. So please go to the church and show us your opposition to this. I think we saw a little bit of moral courage. I don't think you're optimistic, Ezra, but I am. I think we saw something that we haven't seen from any other MLAs. And I think it's the job of the public after seeing that to continue to push Dan Williams in the right direction, to be down here at the church, to make a stand, to call for an investigation, an independent investigation into the decision-making that led to what happened here and what continues to happen. If he's the only guy speaking out, let's get him speaking out. I want to see what he's able to do because a Facebook video is not enough, as you rightly point out. So what else? What else, Dan Williams? Show us what you're going to do next. That's what I want to see. That for me, that's encouraging. He's the only person who said anything, but I want to see more. And I think it's the onus is on the public, all the public, his constituents, anybody who's completely outraged by what they're seeing here. Sounds like Dan Williams doesn't like it. So let's see what he's going to do next. And maybe people should ask him.
Sheila, this is why you're the chief reporter.
Thank you.
And this is why you're down there and not me.
I know.
Because I am so goddamn mad. I would lose my cool if I were down there. At least when I'm losing my cool on YouTube, it's just words that I'm raving into the internet. Because I am so mad at every part of the establishment. I'm furious with the RCMP. I'm furious with Alberta Health. I'm furious with the Justice Department. I'm furious with the Premier. I'm furious with the government MLAs. I'm furious with the opposition MLAs. I'm furious with the media party. I'm furious with the silence of the lambs, the law professors, the civil liberties activists, the NGOs. I'm extra furious for the cowardly other church pastors who, at best, are silent, and in some cases have called on this church to surrender. I'm furious at the culture which just says, oh well, I think we might have lost Sheila. There may have been a battery issue. As you know, it's a little bit chilly. Oh, it's back. It looks like we just lost the connection with Sheila for a second. Are you back, Sheila?
I am.
Okay, we lost the feed for 1 second, but it's no problem. I do want to mention there was one politician who went down there. Sheila, I think you talked to him, and that's Derek Sloan, the Member of Parliament from Ontario. Is that correct?
Yes, he did. So that's the only politician. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say the only politician. Glenn Carrott did come down here. He drove up from Innisfail the day they were locking down the church to show his outrage against what was happening here. He was the first person in the public eye. He's vying to be the mayor in Innisfail, and he's running on an anti-lockdown, pro-small business platform. And he came down here, and then Derek Sloan came down later on in the day.
Yeah. So let us give credit to Glenn Carrott and to Derek Sloan. And you say that what that Facebook star, what was his name again, Dan Williams, you say that was better than nothing, and nothing is what the rest of his government has done. That's better than nothing. So you're a glass 10% full gal. I'm a glass 90% empty guy. But you're saying, hey, 10% is better than 0%. And you're right. In fact, I think that MLA is also the MLA for Lacrete, Alberta, which is a very Christian
Yes.
town, and it's also a town that basically it says you can take your lockdown and stuff it. So maybe he actually believes what he says, but that does not, in my mind, excuse the lack of an or else, as you correctly say. I'm mad! Okay, what are you going to do about it, buddy? Oh, nothing! Oh, nothing! The cowardice. You know, 2,000 years of Christianity, the stories of persecution and martyrs. What saint? Jesus himself, the whole theology is based on sacrifice. They hated me, they will hate you. And in the moment it comes, complete silence.
Yep.
And you were there can you call up Sheila's vids from Iraq? And just play some of them as B-roll, maybe in the background or something. Sheila, you and I have both been to Iraq, to the Nineveh Plain, where Christians have been living nonstop for 1,500 years, where the Christians there still pray in the language of Jesus, which is like related to Hebrew, it's called Aramaic. That's the language Jesus spoke, I think.
Yeah.
So this is, we're showing on the screen right now, I don't think you can see it. This is Iraq. These are Christians from Iraq. This is from Sheila's video, is it? By ISIS. Some have been killed. Some have been threatened. These are Christians who are actually making the decision, if I'm not mistaken here, Sheila, to leave the land where they have lived for 1.5 millennium on pain of death, because the choice ISIS gave them was convert or die, basically. And that's, now, there's other things. Thank you, Justin, for showing this. These folks want to live as Christians. Many of them were applying to be refugees in Australia. I was in some of these same towns, Batnaya, Dohuk, Erbil, and you see the destroyed churches, the torched churches. I don't know if you can find video of me, just because I don't, Sheila, did you go to the desecrated gravestones? Did you go to?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so happy to show it with Sheila. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the Catholic Church in Batnaya is using the destroyed gravestones now as construction materials to rebuild their school. So even in their persecution, they make good of it.
So these are images from Sheila's visit, or perhaps it was my visit.
No, this is me.
This is, okay, that was the church that Sheila was there. So this is Sheila. We're just skimming forward. Batnaya, I've been there. Can we see the church itself? They torched the church, and now they're rebuilding. So you're saying those are gravestones, eh?
Yeah, so that's the school. They're using the gravestones because ISIS destroyed the graves, but the parish priest is using them in the construction materials at school.
Got it. So this Christian, so some Christians that we showed earlier are saying we're out of here, and they're going to Australia, because Trudeau cut off the Christian private refugee. He capped it at 1,000. It's the only kind of immigrant, there's no immigration he doesn't like other than Christian refugees. So Trudeau capped the Christian refugees. So yeah, you can see the rubble here. This is a Christian town, absolutely rubble. So these are Christians who are deciding to stay and rebuild. Look at that. This is what ISIS did. There's also a possibility that some of the damage was done when these places were retaken from ISIS. I can see there's painting over graffiti. Yeah, look at this. This is the church. I've been there. This is the church. Yeah. You could still see the scorch marks, or maybe they cleaned it up a bit. I was in that church. ISIS used their prayer books as target practice, the cross, where the crosses join. That was like their bullseye. ISIS terrorists would line up Christian prayer books and use them as bullseyes for target practice.
They used the spire of the church as a sniper's nest in the town.
Yeah. And the reason I say this, and I show your footage there, and I was there a year earlier, is, yeah, there's me. I think that's a graveyard, right? So maybe, yeah, show the smashed. Can you show any of the smash? Yeah, right there. Yeah, right there. Look at that. They smashed the graves. What's incredible to me is you see that's a Christian cemetery in Iraq. ISIS is fighting. They're fighting Iraq. They're fighting the Kurds. They're fighting Allied bombers. Like it was a desperate insurgency. They were creating the Islamic State, but they still took time out of their war to destroy a Christian cemetery. It's like the Nazis. The Nazis, you know, they got Russia on their eastern front. They got the Allies on the western front. They got, you know, the bombing overhead. But the Nazis still took the time and resources to prosecute the Holocaust. Similarly, ISIS, they're fighting all these different, you know, counter-terrorism armies, but they still make time to desecrate the Christian cemetery. And the reason I'm on this 10-minute tear about Iraq is they're holding firm. And yet every Christian I see, Christian of high station, like that Dan Williams, a Christian MLA, like Jason Kenney, the Christian premier, the heads of the churches, where's the bishops and cardinals? Where's other denominations? At the first whiff of trouble, they shut up. If anything, they're on the side of the government. And how can you, for your entire life, read a book about persecution and sacrifice, and then when the first whiff of trouble comes, you submit to it or participate in it? That's what I don't understand. And maybe it's not my place to say you're a Christian or you're not, because I'm a Jew, and do I have any standing to say who or who isn't a Christian? Maybe not. But for God's sakes, do you give it up so easily? You know, we all know stories of how Christians historically were tortured in the grossest of ways. The sack of Constantinople, the sack of so many cities, the conquering of Spain, the torture that is the story of not just Christian history, but that's the story of the crucifixion itself. And all it takes is 30 cops answering a public health order, and that's enough to surrender. All right, I'm going to stop kvetching, Sheila. I'm just glad I'm not there, because I would lose my temper.
You know, it's interesting that when China cracked down on the churches in Hong Kong, you hear a lot of outcry, especially from the bishops and the cardinals in the Western world, about the Chinese government controlling the church, that they resist and resent how the Chinese government removes Catholic bishops and appoints their own that are loyal to the state, that they're rewriting the Bible. But I haven't heard a word from a single one of those same bishops about what's happening here, because this is state control of the church. They literally seized the church. Why? Because the state's interpretation of GraceLife theology does not match GraceLife's. And so that's what's happening here. GraceLife says that for them to follow the public health order, it violates their ability to practice their faith. The state doesn't care. So that's the state interfering in their theology. Where are all the people who care about religious freedom, or the lefties who don't shut up about separation of church and state? Anytime that a politician is openly Christian, they say, keep your religion out of politics. Well, that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to keep politics out of their religion, but the province just won't let them.
Yeah. Well, Sheila, let me once again say I think you've got the right approach. You're more even-keeled. And for that reason, I think you're more successful than me, because I just don't have your patience. And I don't I mean, you're right with this MLA. I was enraged by the lack of action, the lack of consequences, the lack of skin in the game. The fact that he recorded it at the legislature. Why not drive 20 minutes down to ground zero, buddy? You know, why not drive down? Wouldn't that have a symbolic effect? Well, it shows where he worships, doesn't it? But you are correct to say that his minuscule effort was still infinitely more than those who did nothing. And I noticed that yesterday or the day before, when 15 or 17 UCP MLAs dissented from Jason Kenney's lockdown, they didn't say a word about this church.
No.
What is wrong? I don't know, maybe it's none of my damn business. Maybe it's none of my damn business.
I think this is everyone's business, what's happening here.
Yeah.
I mean, freedom of religion is a fundamental freedom. If we're not outraged that it's being stripped away from GraceLife, we're all next.
Yeah.
I mean, and it is happening. There are definitely, for me, Catholic churches that are saying nothing and being compliant. My church is instantly 90 years old when I walk in the door because everybody who's there, besides myself, doesn't know how to use YouTube. And this lockdown is killing our churches. It's killing our synagogues. It's driving people away and they're no longer practicing. But maybe that's what they want.
Yeah. Well, I just sent a little poem from Father Martin Niemöller, prominent Lutheran pastor in Germany 100 years ago, criticized Adolf Hitler, actually was sentenced, was arrested and imprisoned. Scroll down a little bit there. I'll read it. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And that picture there is at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., which is a very powerful museum. And so perhaps that is my explanation, because, you know, they're not even starting with the Jews, are they? They're starting straight,
No.
well, actually in Montreal they are picking on the Jews a fair bit, which I find gross. But they're just going straight for the Christians. And if they can get the Christians to bend the knee so easily, well then, like, that's the dominant, largest religion in Canada. That's a religion essential to Canada's identity, culture, history, law, morality, customs. And if the Christians will bend the knee so easily, nothing will stand in their way. These unelected, unaccountable public health tyrants, it's incredible to me. And this is the moment. You know, my friend John O'Sullivan used to say, it's easier to fight in the first ditch than the last ditch. And at today's staff meeting, I mentioned that I just received the latest legal bill for Fight the Fines, and it's $128,000. That's a lot of money. And that's just the latest installment, because we have over 600 cases. And just yesterday, even on the live stream, we offered to defend the guy who was shooting golf balls there. And, you know, we hear more cases every day. A lot of businesses in Alberta say they need help. And I'm thinking, well, I don't have, you know, we're on track to spend $2 million this year on legal fees for, well, we've committed to helping over 1,000 people. Well, do you wait till you, like we don't have $2 million, but do we say no to people who need help, or do we say yes to them and then try and get help? Because do you wait till the end before you fight, or do you fight now? Here's the problem with the police. A year ago, when police were first when we were all new to this pandemic, if you would say to a cop, there's someone not wearing a mask, the cop would say, stop bugging me, I'm here to fight crime. It was so alien and unnatural for a cop to be a masked policeman. It's insane. But now a year later, the cops do it with gusto. In fact, let me show you a video from Quebec. Let's play about a minute of this. Can we start it a minute from the end? Do you have the YouTube version? Start it from a minute from the end. It's a 3-minute video, but I know that if you start it from a minute from the end, you'll show the key parts. This is just the masked police in Montreal. It's in French, but you don't need to understand the language to see what's going on. Do you have that ready? Take a look.
Ils sont d'où? Ils sont d'où? Non, moi j'ouvre pas, c'est la police qui sonne en bas. C'est la police qui sonne, j'ouvre pas, man. Hey, tes chums ils rentrent pas ici tant que t'as pas un mandat, man.
Vas-y, y'a rien sûr, s'il te plaît.
Hey, tu sens ta matraque, je te jure, là. Hey! Hey, tu viens de le fesser avec ta matraque, t'es un malade, le gros. C'est en vidéo. T'es en vidéo. Ah ouais, fesse-moi juste pour voir, le gros. Ah ouais, non, t'es sur une propriété privée.
Mais c'est ça, je vous en supplie.
Elle a sorti de la partie.
Now, if that was a rapist who had been caught, I'd say, hey, copper, hit him again for me. If that was a murderer, if that was a terrorist, I'd say, hey, give me the baton. Let me get a whack in before he's taken away. But that is not what that is. Those were people who weren't wearing their masks. Those were people, maybe there was an extra person in an apartment or something. And the police, I think one of them was asthmatic, actually. I think that's what he was saying. And the police just wailing on them with batons and shouting, don't film me, and then finally attacking someone filming. So a year into it, and the police have now been conditioned that this is what they do. And any police who had qualms about it have either retired, been reassigned, whatever. And so you actually have the worst cops remaining. The ones who are fine with this, the ones who are enjoying this. Do you think that copper there who was hitting a guy lying down, arms behind his back, do you think that cop enjoyed hitting him with his baton? I think he did. I think he loved it. So when we get emails, when we get maybe 20 a day asking for help, should I say no? Or should I say yes and we'll try and get the dough together? That's my point of view because we're running this Fight the Fines Civil Liberties Project. But how about, so that's just my point of view. I say now's the fight. If we don't fight now, there's no tomorrow. So let's say you're a church and you say, no, I'm just going to wait to see if it gets worse. If it gets worse, I'm allowed to have 10% of my congregants there, and we're allowed to do it by Zoom. If that's reduced to 5%, and if they turn off the Zoom, that's when I'll take a stand. Like if you won't take a stand when you have the military occupation of a church, a heavily armed garrison, if you won't take a stand here, you're never taking a stand.
Ezra, I try to live my life and I approach Fight the Fines in the very same way. I think it was said by Father Maximilian Kolbe. He's a saint, actually. He died in Auschwitz. And he said, the most deadly poison of our times is indifference. And that's really the poison of the entire pandemic, is the civil liberties infractions, nobody cares. What the masks really are, the dehumanization of it all, nobody cares. They just go along to get along. And we're seeing it from our churches right now. Our churches are poisoned by indifference to what's happening here. But again, that's why I fight the fines. That's why I think we all work very hard to stand up for the little guy, because everybody else is indifferent.
Yeah. we got to get, there's we can't go too late for a number of reasons. We got to get to the super chats. Sheila, why don't you walk around the perimeter if you can, just to give our folks a different view. I'm going to whip through these super chats quickly because I want to say thanks to people.
I'm going to head down this side where I can normally get around the corner, down the property owner's side.
Guy in BC, $4. Norm Inspector called for the military to be deployed in BC on CBC this morning to prevent non-essential travel after John Horgan said yesterday that he can't prevent it. How is this type of rhetoric possible with U.S. states
No, I can jump the fence. He let me on yesterday. Sorry, I was just double checking I could get on the property again. I just like to ask permission every time. I'm not.
Good idea. And you were talking to the neighbor's guy there, right? The neighbor's friend?
Yes. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I disagree with Norman Spector. I don't think we should live in a police state. I think the problem with this pandemic is people over age 70, actually over age 80, and I don't think we have to destroy our civil liberties for something that has a death toll of a very bad flu season, and that's about it. Bruce B donated $2. There's a saying, the truth will set you free. That's why I love Rebel News. Thank you. Pitch Black donated $5. Mosques are exempt from the AHS rules. Well, I'd like to see some video evidence of that, and you share a link on YouTube, but that's probably worth more investigation. Kathy D. of Edmonton donated $4. Morning, Ezra and Sheila. A friend who attends GraceLife is so grateful Rebel has been there. Thank you. Well, thanks go to Sheila. Kane and Mark donated $3. I hope GraceLife Church will have Sunday Mass on next door neighbor's property. Well, he did offer that. We saw that in the video yesterday. MEC donated $2 through Super Chat. Thank you for all you do. You're welcome. Mike Germain donated $10. The situation is ridiculous. You must get Jason Kenney to comment on this. Keep up the good work. Yeah, he hasn't said a lot about it, has he, lately? Philippe Brevard.
And they don't take our questions. Sorry, they don't take our questions even when we do call in.
That's right. I don't think they would want to talk about this. And the media party wouldn't ask them in any mean way, would they? Kathy D. of Edmonton, $4 for Justin. Thank you, Justin. Bad boy donated $4. Why are we talking about this all week long when Ontario's on full lockdown and Toronto's saying empty hospitals are full? Well, because we are the only people showing this grotesque paramilitary occupation and the garrisoning of a church. We have other reporters in this company who are covering other matters in other cities, and you will see a lot of that in the next 3 days. But what we're talking about here is the grossest civil liberties violation in the entire country, if not the continent.
Sorry, Ezra, I don't mean to interrupt you, but those are police inside the inner perimeter. So I don't know what they're doing, but I think maybe they're erecting more of like putting more signs up, but they're inside the inner perimeter with the church there. Huh. So they're inside the second fence. Huh. Sorry to interrupt.
No, I appreciate that. So I was looking down at the super chats here. Noble Canadian, $8. High speculation is stretch, but could they have commandeered church property to use as a makeshift quarantine camp? No, I don't think that's what's going on. Mike Germain donated $10. Thank you. Colin Dobson, $10. I spent several years in the green zone in Baghdad. I was freer than in modern Canada. I'm sorry to hear that, but I appreciate the report. Julie donated $3. I tried calling Tyler's Chandler office. The listing on the government website is no longer in service. Yeah, I don't doubt it. What a little coward. Dan Pickering donated $20. Thank you. Thanks for all you do. Well, Sheila's doing a great job. And aren't you glad that she's there instead of me? Because if I was there, I would be doing and saying things in an escalating manner that would wind up with me in jail. And I'm not built for jail. Listen, I mean, God bless the pastor who put up with 35 days of it. Eva Schoen, $4. My church is also fully open with no restrictions, and we stand with GraceLife. Well, I wonder what church that is. Tale of Two Cities, $12. This will force the downfall of Jason Kenney, Alberta Health. This is unacceptable. Well, how will it do that? And that's the what else, or the or else. I mean, show me an MLA who's done anything. Show me an MP, a lawyer, a law professor, a countervailing force that's done anything. In fact, I'd say it's the opposite. It proves that you can get away with anything, can't you? God's Scalpel, $4. I agree with Ezra. He's on point. Thank you. Terry Lynn, $8. If this was a Hells Angels clubhouse, would you be so horrible to the working cops? Hundreds of churches are closed. This is why church is so important. If this was a Hells Angels clubhouse, you would have a dozen.
The cops would be doing their job.
Not just that. Not just that, but you'd have a bunch of civil liberties lawyers running down saying, hey, Freedom Association, hey, back. You'd have a bunch of lawyers coming to the aid of the Hells Angels is what you'd have. Heidi M.
So I don't know if you can see, but sorry, Ezra, I don't know if you can see because it's Skype, so it's always a little bit pixelated. But I found where they put the porta potties, and it's inside the inner perimeter, and they put it behind black tarping so nobody can see from the outside. So it's just.
So they're literally shitting on church property.
Yeah, they put it really close to the church, really close, like right beside the church's patio there.
And why wouldn't they? Because that's a metaphor for what they're doing.
Sure. Especially since there's a big parking lot in the back here.
Yeah.
There's plenty of less, I don't know, sacred places that they could have put it, but no, it's nice and convenient for them.
And I wonder if when no one's around, if they literally just piss against the wall of the church. Hey, when we're done live streaming, could you take some higher res photos of those latrines?
Definitely will.
Those are the Kenney latrines at the GraceLife Church. Where are we here? Heidi, let me just speed up because we got to go in, what, about 5 minutes or so? Okay, we got 10 minutes max. Heidi M. donated $10. Please look at the possibility that there may be a special ops going on, investigation and nefarious activities. It would not be the first time. Well, you can see the special ops. Bring in the, heavily armed police. Boxes, I presume, have heavy weapons. They're turning this into an armed garrison. And the purpose for bringing in guns is because you think you need guns. And so they have a plan to use guns. It's just so weird and so Waco of them, don't you think? Kathy D. of Edmonton, $5. Ezra, there's nothing wrong with wanting justice in this life. It is painfully slow at times never comes, and hope is all you have when justice can't be seen. Keep calm and carry on. Well, Sheila keeps calm and carries on.
There's a cop going to use the bathroom right now. Look.
Yeah. I wonder if he uses the Constitution as toilet paper. Yeah. Why not, right? Or maybe like the ISIS terrorists, he uses the prayer book from the church. That's what those ISIS terrorists did. They defiled it in every way they can. Seriously, you brought your latrine and you're putting it right on the church premises. So not just figuratively. It's right on their
sidewalk.
Right on. So you are literally shitting on the church. But we knew that. I wonder if that was a special instruction given to them by Trudeau's RCMP commissioner, or would it have been the health minister or the justice minister, the premier? Hey guys, we know that there's a big parking lot, we know there's a big field, but can you do me a favor? Can you put your latrines as physically close to the church sanctuary as possible? And can you piss and shit on the church every single hour? Because this is about domination and humiliation and submission. And we will dominate this church and we will disgrace it and defile it. And we will show this church that it is subordinate to us. And we will show the world what we think of it. What a disgrace. Susan S. donated $7. Incredible work, Team Rebel, trying to be an activist here in Kamloops. Thanks, Susan. Unjust on Trudeau, $5. Ezra, could a cop refuse to participate in an action such as this one without being fired? I think they could ask to go to another duty. I think that this would violate the conscience of most cops who had any sort of religious conscience at all. I think most of those cops have probably left the force. These are the disgraceful ones who probably volunteered to piss and shit on the church. And of course, Paladin, the mall cops will do anything for a buck. These are the lowest of the low. Oi, mate, hands off me. Lassie donated $1.20. This compound the Gestapo set up looks like a prison camp, but it ain't doing that good of a job when the criminals can leave. I'm not calling these cops criminals. I'm saying they're disgraceful, unethical, and have violated their oath. Whether or not they have committed a crime, I don't think. They've certainly broken the Charter of Rights. They've broken other laws too, but I don't know if they are criminals. I think they've broken their oath as policemen, though. That's clear. Rebel 1 donated $4. This is more than disgusting. Remember, the desecration of this church is just Canada's Waco. Well, the bizarre thing is that this church was unoccupied when they took it over. They didn't need a gun at all. And they've got dozens of guns. COVID 1984 donated $5. I often wonder if our politicians are being blackmailed. No. There's no blackmail involved here. Kathy A donated $10. Thank you, Rebel, for brave reporting. Would it be inappropriate to wear a shirt saying "Get out"? That's a good idea. Ayla donated $10. Cops always do their dirty work under the cover of night. My grandma used to say, "What goes around comes around." I hope these cops get sued for this injustice. Well, by whom, though? Every force in the establishment is on their side. Tanya donated $3. Derek Sloan was there yesterday. Yeah, that's right. We mentioned that. Unjust on Trudeau, $2. Thank you. Exodus 27. Roxanne, $2. Did you see those kids being brutalized by the police in Montreal? The kids get pulled out by an officer, and the cop tells him he's being arrested for being out in the hall. He gets hit with a baton. It's a crazy scene. I think that's what we just played. Yeah. So TJ, $8. This is also unbelievable. Mika BC, $16. 20 smackaroos just for that rant, Ezra. Thank you. CB donated $4. Check out the mosques. They are full. Ali May donated $4. Hey, Sheila, when you walked around the church, I was reminded of the biblical Bible story of Israel conquering Jericho, walking around the city 7 times. Yeah, I think there was like a Babylon Bee joke to that effect.
Yeah, there was.
MVP.
Yeah, about GraceLife. It was about GraceLife.
Yeah. That's the thing. This is getting international coverage. I know the Canadian media party loves it, but the rest of the world is sort of shocked and grossed out by Canada right now. MVP, $4. Great work exposing the anti-Christian bias. TJ, $5. Ezra, I'm more than willing to donate, but I'm utterly dismayed. How often do you use the word hell and using God's name in vain? Well, fair point. Sad donated $10. I posted this question on Dan's video post. Can you find out for us, the public, what steps took place in this process? Who signed what? Who approved what? I think it was signed by the public health officer of Alberta, Dina Hinshaw. Yeah. Awesome donated $5. You have a top news story going on, and yet you have Sheila running around with a rinky-dink cell phone for coverage. Why such crappy equipment? Sheila, I think there's some sort of rig where you have 4 cell phones at once, and they're on different bands, and they all unite together to give better broadcasting. I'd be open to getting something like that, just to get, and a bigger battery. I think we looked into something like that, Justin, didn't we? Let's look at the pricing for that, because I think that's right. I mean, it's probably worth spending a few bucks to get a better battery, a better broadcast. I think there is something that it's got like 4 cell phones, and amongst them you sort of get good, is the word bit rate? Is that what it would be? I'm using the word. Let's check it out. It's just a Canadian donated $2. Be careful on Sunday. Undercover police will start violence to escalate the use of force. That I believe. TJ donated $2.40. Ezra, I'd appreciate you stop plowing down Williamson to the ground. His hands are tied, and we must respect that. He's doing everything possible from Edmonton to the north to help us. Let's just say I may know him on a personal level. It saddens my heart. Well, I take your point, and it's a point that Sheila made, but is he really doing everything? Or is he doing nothing? He said some words, appreciate it, thanks for the words. That and 35 cents will buy me a payphone call. But what's he done?
What's a payphone?
Yeah, what's a payphone? Warrior 60 donated $8. Hi, Ezra. On Wednesday, you said you would like to go back to GraceLife. You're always welcome at Trinity Bible Chapel in Waterloo. Like GLC, it's an island of sanity. Our worship has cost us $83,000, but absolutely worth it. All right. I appreciate that. Benny donated $10. The only church the government will not mess with is Scientology. I don't know if there are any big Scientology churches in Canada. I think there might be one in Toronto. Patriot Girl, $20. Even Jesus lost his temper when people were disrespecting his Father's sanctuary. God bless you both in God's loving name. I'm just really mad, Sheila.
I know.
Exploration donated $3. People are so far gone, I can't do this much longer. Peace and good vibes and all that BS. Laura donated $1. Can you post the link of police beating the people on the ground? Yeah, maybe we'll put that. Can we put that link in the comments or something? Kim Erswell, 2746 from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for all your hard work. Thank you to Sheila. $5. Stay warm, Sheila, from my scrapping mama. Sheila's friend Justin donated $2. Sheila's looking like a combat reporter at the 38th parallel today. God will win in the end. Not Flying Dutchman, $4. John Veldkamp, $100. John, thanks very much. Enough. Donated $10. Is it time to take to your knees, onlookers? Trish donated $8. Thank you, Rebel News. Love the job you do in Alberta. Loyalist, $5. Go to your local courthouse and swear allegiance under the Federal Oaths of Allegiance Act. Remember the royal motto, Dieu est mon droit, God is my law. Okay. Philip K. donated $4. I think the neighboring farmer needs to spread some liquid manure on a daily basis. Well, why not? The cops are, right?
Yeah.
Ricky donated $20. Keep up the truth. Jordan Banner donated $7. Thank you. Boromir a buck. Levant, why can't you afford a proper cameraman to be there with Gunn Reid? Well, do you want to help me with that? Feel free, super chat or donation or whatever. We have.
Let's also have to remember, though, that we are relying on cell service here, and so we're outside of the city limits, and that all of a sudden becomes a little bit more difficult. So
Yeah, I mean,
please don't think that Ezra doesn't take care of us. Is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, I know Sheila's phone. It's a good phone.
I buy a new one every year.
Yeah. I think the solution is one of those 4-phone rigs. We'll look into it. But, you know, appreciate the $1 donation, but I bet that rig is $5,000. Gilles Savoie donated $7. Thank you. A Canadian donated $1. I've spent over a year in jail in the last 12 years under house arrest for enrolling my daughter in a school, all while making sure my children were also abducted unfettered. I'm sorry to hear that. Not Flying Dutchman, $4. I think the church has a possible environmental claim against the AHS, RCMP, Paladin, and the fence contractor. Video 3 days in a row shows wet spots on the pavement on a sunny day. It looks like oil spill to me. Yeah, that may be an angle, but it's not the most important angle. Dan donated $20. Great work, you guys. So proud of Rebel for actually reporting. JRW, $5. Good morning. I could give more than one like to your videos. I would. The love for the government in the cops is over. We are past that now. Marie Paul, $4. The people of Canada need to stand up and stop the newly formed Canadian Nazi government. Well, I'm not going to use that word Nazi just yet for the government. Stephen Jim Rutherford Taylor donated $5. Thank you. Hugh Mungus, $3. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is good men to do nothing. And the last one, I think, Deviator donated $5. Leamington protest at City Hall, 3:30 p.m. See you there. All right. Well, I think my anger is actually just to cover up my sorrow in a bit, because here we are. So this is really, I think, like the 5th day in a row we've been on this story, and I know there's been some interest around the world, and there's been some interest from our Rebel viewers. And yet what has changed other than, in fact, more fences and more cops and more guns? So here we are, 5 days, hollering into the wind. And, you know, yesterday or 2 days ago was very interesting. We had the Enoch First Nations drumming circle. That was great. We had interesting things coming and going. Derek Sloan and Glenn Carrick came by. But what has changed? This is now the new normal. This is the new permanent. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if these temporary fences were replaced by actual post holes and like a permanent fence, and that this was turned into a police station.
Well, what's next? German Shepherd patrols? Like, I don't know what happens next. How do they fortify this thing further?
Yeah. A couple more super chats, and then we're going to say goodbye, Sheila, because we got a few other things on deck. I'm just going to whip through these. Sure. Stefano, $40. Ezra, manage for the minute the response or lack thereof of this were a mosque. Yeah, try bringing a bunch of latrines onto a mosque. I wonder if that would go over. Philip Brevard donated $2. Get Elon Musk's Starlink internet. It's already up and running, or call him. Okay, I'm unfamiliar with that. Unjust on Trudeau, $55. I love Sheila's reporting on his cell phone. The alternative is nothing by MS Media. Yeah, you know what? Don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. I wouldn't say we're a shoestring operation anymore. I don't know if we're even a startup anymore, but we're an independent. We don't have that big corporate money, and we certainly don't take money from Trudeau. So we make do with phones and live streams, and sometimes it's a bit choppy. I would invite anyone who wants to make a difference to chip in. We have our payroll, we have our legal bills, and then we have the regular costs of journalism. It's an expensive operation. Sometimes people squawk that I'm asking for dough, but if I wasn't asking viewers for dough, I'd be asking Trudeau for dough, or some corporate entity for dough. You tell me which is preferable for me to say, hey, please chip in to viewers, get 1,000 viewers to chip in 10, 20, 50, $100, or to go to Trudeau and say, hey, can you cut me a check for $500,000? Which would Trudeau prefer I do? Trudeau would prefer that I submit and become part of the system, but then I couldn't, and our team couldn't express ourselves independently. Did I read the last one? I think I did. Yeah. COVID-19, $5 without Rebel News, we would have zero media representation. Big thank you. Listen, I'm not being defensive. I'm just saying folks who were pointing out that we're not perfect. Yes, that was sort of obvious. All right, my friends. Well, Sheila, thank you. And I hope you're right about that MLA. I hope you're right that he is a good guy trying to be born, that he's like a little chick pecking his way out of his egg. And he's popped up and he's looked around, he's a little scared, and he doesn't know what to do or say because he's never been out of his eggshell before. And so instead of me raging at him for just pecking his way out of his egg, perhaps we should encourage him to do something useful. You know, there's a saying, effort.
He needs moral support.
That's
He needs the courage of all the people cheering for him to say more. That's what he needs right now.
All right, well, that's why you're wiser
That's what I
than me.
think.
You know, they say effort is admirable, but achievement is valuable. Have you ever heard that saying? Effort is admirable, but achievement is valuable. So we have to actually achieve something, and doing a Facebook video is not really an achievement. We need to make a difference. And you know what, Sheila? Because I'll be honest, it's evident, because you're a better person than me, I think that you have the ability to maybe help this little chick that's pecked its way out of its egg. Maybe help turn him into an eagle, flying free and bringing a little bit of freedom to the church. Because right now, all he's done is get some internet clout. Hey guys, look how many likes and retweets and shares I got. I'm cool. Yeah, but we don't need that. We need an MLA to come down here or to challenge the government or to quit on principle or to do something, an achievement that is valuable.
Yeah.
Last super chat, COVID-19 Calgary City Hall has fencing around it now. Really, I wonder what that's all about. Sheila, thanks. I'm sorry I'm so mad. Free thinker, $5. I'm sure those cops know they won't get a violent protest from the members. Perhaps the plan from Trudeau is to turn the Christian church into a concentration camp, or as he would call it, an isolation facility. Sorry, did I miss something there? We got to go. Sheila, thanks for everything.
You got it.
All right. We'll say goodbye to you now, Sheila. Thanks for being there. Thanks for being the voice of reason. Hopefully you can motivate good people to do the right thing. I just am out of patience. That's my problem. I'm just out of goddamn patience. And there I am swearing again. I get people who are mad when I swear.
Jesus is watching, Ezra.
All right, we're going to close with something happier. We got a viewer-submitted video of a dog named Cody. So let's end on that note. Make us 2% happier. Okay, bye, Sheila.
Bye, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Go get him. Get that plastic wrap. Yeah, you go get him. Yeah, bad boy.